Ah, yes, it's almost time. But before we begin, I've been asked by our hosts and sponsors to warn you, this season of Terror Time and the After Credits cast will be very scary. You'll want to tuck your children in, you'll want to lock your doors, board up your windows, and make sure not to do anything to draw unwanted attention, lest the hordes come for you too. And be sure to keep us on your radio dial by going to patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the cost of an all-expenses-paid trip to Moon Scar Island, you can help keep the lights on and keep you safe in the zombie apocalypse coming your way. Again, that's patreon.com/evacstation, and I think you know what that means. It's... You're all gonna die screaming. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're not unreasonable. I mean, no one's gonna eat your eyes. All we wanna do is eat your brains. The clock has struck
30 more seconds.
What? Did he say a few more seconds?
He said 30.
Oh, okay.
30 more seconds. He said 30 more seconds.
Well, it'll take me 30 seconds to get to that intro. Don't you worry. The clock has struck midnight, and you know what that means. It's terror time again. Oh boy. We'll be running all through the night, and running with me, I have Ryan Metters.
Yeah, hello.
Somewhere in the background, I've got Bo Ketchum. He's busy packing some stuff on his truck. It'll be a minute. Don't you worry. I'm Aaron J. Waseska, and this is the After Credits cast. New season of spookiness. We're back to Halloween stuff. I know you're all excited for this. I know I am. Before we get too deep into the horrors, we have links down below. You can go to Patreon, YouTube, Peepa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. All the different platforms to find us. You can also find us on Twitter or Tumblr or Facebook. If you want to reach out to us to tell us your favorite zombie-filled films or any other kind of horror experiences you want to share with us. And, just because I like to throw it out there, we have an email. Ryan, if they want to reach out to us, what is that email?
That email is, what do you mean it's not a mask? Excuse me. That is evacstation@gmail.com.
So many nostalgia feels for this movie. I can't wait to dive into this one. This is going to be fun.
Hey guys, can you hear me right?
Yep, I can hear you, sir.
Yep.
You came in at the right time. We just finished the intros.
Yeah, I was listening and didn't want to interrupt and be an asshole.
You're fine. You're fine. Interrupting and assholery is the podcast bread and butter.
Nice, I like it.
Well, you just came in time. We're going to get to our first segment before we dive into the film. We always do our little bit of what you're watching. Gentlemen, what have you been watching this week in, time? What have you been up to?
Time. It's wibbly wobbly. Well, I personally watched something that is not horror related, to kind of refresh the palate in the midst of the recordings this week. So I watched the rom-com with my girlfriend, Always Be My Maybe, which is actually really, really funny. I haven't heard Ali Wong's stand-up before, so it was really refreshing. But it's a fun bit of rom-com. Keanu Reeves,
I was gonna say,
he's in it, and he's surprisingly dickish, which is hilarious to me.
I was gonna say, I listened to another podcast just today, actually, and they were talking about that movie, and they were mentioning Keanu in it, and I'm like, oh, this is funny how it just came back around all of a sudden.
This will be a different role than you've seen Keanu Reeves play, which is hilarious because he's supposed to be playing himself, and the real life Keanu Reeves is nowhere near this much of an asshole. So it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend you give it a shot. It's worth a laugh, and it's good for the romantic.
I've seen him, Keanu Reeves, on different podcasts, and he's very down to earth and kind of like a very bro-y type guy. seen clips from the show of him playing it, and he's a lot better actor than I think a lot of people give him credit for. And if you think about his longevity, I mean, this guy's been at it for over 30 years working, and still is hot. So hot right now.
I could give you a dissertation on why I think Keanu Reeves is one of the greatest actors of our generation, but we'll save that for another podcast. Suffice it to say, I like that movie. Anything that Keanu's in, I have a ball with.
I'm going to pencil this
in. And this is no exception, although it's definitely different. So you should definitely give it a look.
I'm going to pencil this in. Keanu season. This is also under my Quentin Tarantino season. And my Batman season. I've got a list going. Don't you worry.
Please, Keanu season. Yo.
Bo, how has your week been? What have you been up to?
Oh, man, I've been slinging tacos like no other. If you're ever in the Iowa City area, you'll look for the big green truck. We've been pushing these tacos. I've been doing it on the side, outside of cooking for IV. So not a lot of time spent watching TV, watching a couple of movies here and there. Thank God for this podcast to give me a reason to relax every now and then. But there's a show I watched, totally binge watched on it. Can't remember the name of it because I suck at this. But Tim Robinson, he was an actor and writer on SNL. He has a show on Netflix that is absolutely hilarious. It's very obscure, like sort of comedy with like, it's kind of like an Eric Andre show where it's like kind of fever dream craziness, but with a little toned down. The sketches are absolutely hilarious. There's cameos from famous comedians and actors that I'm a huge fan of. Highly suggested. Prepared for weird comedy. Just gonna tell you that.
Oh, you know what? I think I heard of this. Is that the I Think You Should Leave show?
Yes.
Yeah.
I Think You Should Leave. Yeah. Opening scene, I've probably watched 50 different times. It's freaking hilarious.
I have to give it a look.
Oh my god!
I'll say you said it's on Netflix.
My girlfriend would probably love that shit. My girlfriend would probably love that shit. She eats it up, but oh god! All right, I will let her know, and she'll probably make me watch it.
Yeah, it's very kind of hipstery. It's like one of those things like, oh, you guys don't watch that show. Oh, you guys don't know what funny is.
God,
love it. Well, I'll be brief this week. So I have not watched a lot of things. We've been busy with the new house, getting things set up. We're going to start doing some yard work here very soon.
Nice.
But in between bits of chores and work and podcasting, now that's back in full swing, I've been dipping into the video games a bit, getting through my backlog a bit. And to start things off, I'll continue with where I left off on the adventures in Bloodborne, because Ryan, it's been a hot minute since we've updated that.
Yes!
I'm breaking out into a couple updates because it's a lot of stuff I've done since we last talked about it. So to start off with, I left us off. I entered into the Bergenworth castle, I think is what it was, after Castle Cainhurst.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just say, the boss of Castle Cainhurst, he's an asshole, but I respect the fact that he's a skill-focused boss. He's literally like, you learn to get better playing him. The spider boss at Bergenworth, it's literally just a numbers game, and you just have to have bigger numbers to beat it, and it's stupid.
You didn't like Rom? You didn't like Rom?
I didn't like the spider and his spider friends, and I say this in a basement filled with spiders right now, so they can hear me. But no,
I remember this podcast was a podcast about movies.
Oh, you calm down. I'm getting there. This is a horror game. This works. This works. Actually, so and then
let me express my geekness.
And then to wrap things up with that, I went into Yargul right after that, which I'm trying to remember what the hell happened in that area. It's been a hot minute since I played it because I jumped into other stuff since then. But I'm through that area.
The Unseen Village, yes,
yep,
sir.
Went through that, and I think that's the one reborn. That's the boss down there, right?
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a blast with that.
Oh no,
I thought Rom was bullshit.
Oh no, I beat him. I beat him in one go. He actually wasn't that bad at all.
Oh well, fucking bully for you. You jerk.
No, I summoned an NPC to help out. He distracted the boss while I went up and fought all the archers, and then when the archers were dead, so was the NPC. So I'm like, oh, it's just me then. And I proceeded to beat him down over the course of like 5-10 minutes.
Nice. Oh, so after you actually beat Bloodborne, I'm gonna send you a link to a YouTube video. It's a really cool video game streamer called Jesus Here's Toast. He's played, like, he makes speed runs of Bloodborne. So he does the entire game, all bosses, in like 90 minutes.
Ooh.
And so once you actually like ground through the whole game and you've really appreciated it, watch this video. His skill will make you mad at how fast he's going, but he himself is also a really funny dude, so it's really cool to watch.
Nice.
I'll send it to you when you're done with it.
I think I said it before, but I'm tempted to go back and do an Arcane build run because I've looked into some of the Arcane stuff, and it's really good if you invest in it, but it takes a while to get good at. So it probably be something I'm doing for a while because
as somebody who actually did an Arcane build, I can tell you, like it feels satisfying when you get to like the higher tiers, but it's a fucking slog at the beginning.
Of course.
Are you guys doing this just to mess with me right now?
A little bit.
Yes.
I'll wrap up here by saying that I have a future update in a couple episodes we'll cover, but I think that covers it for those two areas. There's more stuff coming though. Don't you worry, Ryan.
This segment.
Nice.
With that.
The callback of.
With that in mind.
Okay.
With that in mind, let's move on to our next segment, which is talking about the film we're going to be doing this week. So, welcome to Terror Time 2. We're going to subtitle this one, The Corpse Party, because, zombies. Good stuff. The dead have risen this year, and the first horror from the crypt that they've given us is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. A very weird choice for this series. Released in 1998, straight to TV and straight to video. A home video.
Yeah.
Directed by both Hiroshi Aoyama and Kazumi Fukushima, and written by Davis Doi and Glenn Leopold. The film features the voice work. Film features the voice work of Mark Hamill, Jim Cummings, Cam Clark, Tara Strawn, Adrienne Barbeau, B.J. Ward, Frank Welker, Mary Kay Bergman, Scott Inez, and from the year 3000, Billy West. For the three people out there listening who caught the Futurama reference. No awards or box office numbers, so Ryan, I'm just going to throw this straight to you for fun facts.
Excellent. We do have 3 fun facts about this film, although this film was definitely a ball of fun. The film was released direct-to-video on September 23rd of 1998, and it premiered on Cartoon Network on October 31st of 1998. It is the first in a long line of animated Scooby-Doo films, now totaling 32 films as of 2019. Next up, we have Adrienne Barbeau as the voice of Catwoman on Batman the Animated Series from 1992. In this particular film, she plays Simone Lenoir, the villainess who actually becomes a literal Catwoman. This film also features the voices of Joker and Harley Quinn from the exact same series, because voice actors have to eat, regardless of what job it is. Last but not least, this film marks the first time that someone besides Casey Kasem voices Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo franchise. Reason being, Casey Kasem refused to provide the voice of Shaggy if he would not be a vegetarian like himself, because Shaggy eats crawfish in this movie. So instead, Shaggy is voiced by Billy West, which is a damn good job. Interesting. It's an interesting hill to die on for Casey Kasem, though. I don't. If the person that I'm voicing isn't a vegetarian, then I can't. But all right.
Well, bonus.
That is his choice.
I was gonna say bonus fun fact for you in regards to that, Ryan. So there's an episode of The Simpsons where Lisa becomes a vegetarian, and they had a guest star. I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, but. He said he would only guest star if they make Lisa a vegetarian and keep her that way. And to this day, she's still a vegetarian in the series.
Huh.
Paul McCarthy?
Yeah, that's it. Paul McCarthy. He was the guy.
Yeah.
But why?
You know that guy. He played in a band with 3 other guys. They had a couple hits.
But
I
back in the
spaced
day.
the name for
why?
like 2 seconds.
it was just so like, why? What?
I mean, it kind of works though for Lisa's character, but for Shaggy, yeah, it's a weird hill to die on.
Yeah, that's great. Lisa, it's believable. Shaggy, it's like, dude, you're the stoner to us all. Like, what are you doing over here, buddy?
Like if it tastes halfway flavorful, we're eating that shit, and then we're asking for seconds. Come on, guys.
Right. Except for the technically, if you go back and watch the scenes, many scenes, Shaggy is not eating to his full ability because he keeps his eyes closed, and Scooby's
an asshole.
stealing his food.
I have thoughts about this.
That's
We'll get to that.
Oh man, I hate this movie so fucking enjoyable.
So before we get too far, let's get some initial thoughts out of the way. I have a little bit here, but before we do that, Bo, do you want to drop in your initial thoughts of this movie?
Yeah, this was a movie completely different than what I thought. When you sent the message, I confidently sent back like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this a million times." I thought we were talking about the live action, and so when I went to double check to make sure it was either the first one or the sequel, I realized that we were talking about I was talking about the wrong movie. So when I learned it was the animated one, I was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? But sitting down to it, I've always enjoyed the movies. And when I saw the year that it was released, it actually, I think, was almost like a precursor to like the live action, because it came out only, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years later. And yeah, so being surprised by what this was, I thought it was really good. It was very like entertaining, you know. I've watched this when my mom used to babysit kids back in the day, so like there are some fun jokes that I remember seeing when I was like 17, 18 years old that I didn't catch right away back then, and I'm definitely catching now. So I was tickled with entertainment.
I was gonna say, I think Brian and I were both 8 years old when this came out, so we're both like, you're catching references from 17. We're catching from when we were a child. This is ridiculous for us.
Well,
yeah, so I could have been babysitting you at the time, which that's really
well.
weird.
So you're catching things from Aaron's childhood. I had never seen this movie. Actually.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah. I actually was not the biggest Scooby-Doo like viewer because I didn't have Cartoon Network at home. So like I would see random like one-off episodes, but you know I understand the gist of the show, and so I was experiencing this one first off as, you know, a near 30-year-old adult, and I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. Like I thought it would be cool and like it would like speak to the kid in me, but it was actually really, really enjoyable how meta this movie was, because they come into it off the bat like being the veteran of so many other mysteries where it's just always a dude in the mask, and they're like, it's obviously some guy in the mask, or it's obviously a projection, oh we've got magnets, or like no, they're using stage wiring, or like he's doing this to collect the insurance money, da 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 da. So it was really, really cool to kind of be in the mindset of like the adult Scooby gang that like already knew that shit wasn't real, and then and then to be like to join them in their shock when it's like, holy shit, wait, it's real, oh god.
Crazy. So you didn't have any point of reference going into this, so like there's no like nostalgia to like you meddling kids or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I mean like I've seen one-off episodes. Like I'm fully aware of the concept of Scooby-Doo, and I've definitely seen a couple of the episodes. But I wasn't that guy who's seen like all of the mysteries up to date.
Damn, dude! Back in the day, the Harlem Globetrotters made a cameo.
I remember that one. That was a good one.
Oh, and that was way before all of our time. That was.
No, yeah, but they would always throw us up on reruns and shit. So.
Tell my friends I knew the Harlem Globetrotters. We went and saw them live, and afterwards I'm like, yeah, I know them. And when I got older, I realized I didn't know them. I just knew them from the cartoon, and then I felt like a big lying idiot.
Well, for me, my point of reference was back in '98. I actually saw this the week it dropped on Cartoon Network. I remember specifically because that was the year our family went to the Quad Cities to visit my mom's side of the family, and we did trick-or-treating out there with her family and my cousins and stuff. And I was also there. My brother got sick from secondhand smoke, and boy, that was a treat. But after we got back from trick-or-treating, I popped into the room we were staying in, turned on the TV, because I wanted to see this, because for weeks they've been hyping us up on Cartoon Network about how the monsters are going to be real this time and stuff. And I'm like, oh boy, I want to see this shit. And coming back all these years later, I really like the concept. I think it's still a lot of fun. It's a good short film, and surprisingly, it's got a fun soundtrack still after all these years.
Yeah, it was very it was cute. It was very catchy, and like me and Elisa were tapping our toes, kind of singing along to it, just like kind of catching ourselves doing like, what are we doing? We're like actually really enjoying this.
Well, speaking of
sir, I think you have a synopsis for us. If you wanna,
I do.
You wanna break it down before we get to discussing?
I'll jump in right now. On tour for her new show, Daphne and Fred talk about the good old days. Fred decides to reunite the gang on Daphne's quest to get real monsters to show the world, despite the fact they've never actually seen a real ghost or monster ever in their careers. I don't know how she has this ability to believe in the supernatural at this point. I really don't. Once back together, they do several mysteries via montage, all disappointingly not supernatural by any stretch of the imagination. Overhearing their disappointment at solving real crimes instead of actually finding ghosts, Twilight Sparkle tells them that her master's mansion is all kinds of haunted. The gang agrees to follow her, follow the little pony to the not suspiciously named Moonscar Island, home to the hot pepper plantation and a clouder of cats. As the gang settles in, an apparition appears, which sets off skepticism for Fred and Velma. The owner of the island, Catwoman, which is more fitting than you would first suspect, gets tired of Scooby's bullshit and kicks the dog out of the house at dinner. As the sun goes down, then that's when the wind begins to howl and the dead rise from the ground. Fred, Velma, and Daphne race out of the house following the screams of Shaggy and Scooby somewhere on the island. They too stumble into the Walking Dead and try to rip its face off, suspecting it to be the gardener, the ferryman, and even the fisherman from earlier in the film. When Fred rips its head clean off, though, and it still moves, it sinks into them that the zombies are real. Chasing happens with some pretty baller music. The gang reunites and hears more screams from Twilight Sparkle. They follow them into the secret underground cave. Totally not a sacrificial chamber. I don't know what you're talking about. Catwoman and Sparkle transform into cat creatures, like you do, and monologue their history of worshipping a cat god and reveal the true nature of their curse. Also, the ferryman is on it too, and is also a Thundercat. Points to Freddy for calling that one. Oh, and the zombies and ghosts were actually attempting to warn the gang the whole time. Who knew? Using the power of voodoo, because we need more unbelievable magic bullshit in this zombie cartoon, the Neko-chans trap Fred, Daphne, and Velma, and the gardener. Not the gardener! Scooby and Shaggy bumblefuck their way into the secret cave and free the gang through a series of dumb accidents. The gang then turns the power of voodoo onto the Neko-chans, long enough for them to not do their ritual in time. The Neko-chans and Lion-O turn into dust before our eyes. General Zombie E. Lee gives them the thanks, and the island returns to normal. The gang returns home with their handsome gardener/detective friend to go on more direct-to-video adventures.
Zombie E. Lee, fuck you.
I totally thought it was an animated version of The Walking Dead at first.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's basically the prequel to Walking Dead. I mean, it's right there.
Oh, yeah, totally. I see it. It was between Breaking Bad and Walking Dead.
Yep. All right. So with that, let's get to some discussion here, gentlemen. Who wants to kick things off, or should I go with the questions first?
Bo, what did you think overall of the movie?
I thought it stayed really true so we're talking about roughly a 7-minute storyline going from the TV show, right? Mm-hmm. And so now they're taking one whole storyline and they got to extend it over an hour. And I thought they did a really good job with filling that, because it was the same tropes that you get from the original TV show, but they filled in the gaps. I thought really clever, and they modernized them really. I thought really kind of like cute the way Daphne was the host and Fred was part of the gang, blah blah blah. But then they would have like really great little callback jokes to the original show, and it was cheesy, but it was almost like the writers knew how cheesy they were going, so it didn't come off as tacky, but kind of just like pretty slick actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how self-aware this movie is. It knows exactly what it's doing. It knows what it's aiming at. It knows its audience, and it manages to hit that sweet spot where I can 100% buy that kids would be like 100% into it, but the adults that are watching it with them would just be laughing and like enjoying themselves because they're fully cognizant of the silliness of the concept. So I think I feel like movies for children, like you see it mostly with like the major like kids pictures.
Pixar.
They have to appeal, like Pixar and whatnot. They have to appeal to both kids and adults because it's the kids that are going to get the most enjoyment out of it, but it's the adults that are going to actually pay to watch the movie with their kids. So you got to give the parents, the adults, something to have fun with too. And I think this movie does that very, very well. Surprisingly well for a straight-to-video release. So kudos for it.
Kids, if your parents won't take you to see a movie, just go in and sneak in. It's fine. No one's going to stop you.
Bruh. Do not condone criminal activity on the podcast.
Don't worry. I don't actually mean that. Totally sneak in. Don't believe Ryan.
By the way, I didn't torrent this movie or anything.
Oh, Ryan, you're right. Why the hell should they sneak into a movie? Just steal it off the internet. So much better.
Yeah, all movies are free on the internet, guys. Don't believe what they tell you.
Anyway,
It was 97. There was no internet, Ryan.
I'm going to heap some praise in this one real quick, just because I want to get to that before we get to deep discussion. First off, like I said in the synopsis, I dig the music here. I mean, we used it for the intro for the Halloween season for a reason. It's good. It's fun stuff. But going more into it, for a 98 film, this looks surprisingly good. Like, the animation quality is really solid. The transformation sequence in particular, when they become cat creatures, is actually really well handled.
It's real hard. Yeah.
And they even had some really good lighting effects near when they ever had like the lanterns and flashlights going on. Like, for a 98 film, and from a Scooby-Doo brand, which animation was always kind of back in the day, they really stepped up their game for this, and it's pretty damn solid.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Interesting.
Yep. With that, I do have a series of discussion questions for you boys. Are you guys ready for this shit?
Let's do it.
Alright, so first up, they have a lot of early cases in the film, like through the montage and whatnot. Do you wish you could have seen any of those cases at all, or do you think it was more fun to see them run through them quickly like a montage like that?
Well, let's be real here. Like, we know how the story's going to go, so like it tipped out in an hour, and that was just enough. Like, if it would have been any longer, I would have not enjoyed this movie at all. It would have like totally killed my boner for it. Well, like cartoon boner, guys, come on. So no, I think
someone put a Pornhub logo there.
I thought it was a great, like, kind of like for Ryan, for example. Like, if you weren't familiar, it kind of gave you this like a really clever sort of montage-y sort of like, let's catch you up to now point. But yeah, if they would got distracted with any more, because they packed a lot into that one storyline, I thought.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Bo. And going back on what I said earlier, like the fact that they run through several of the mysteries that you already know the outcome of, it leans into how meta, like, conscious the story is. It's like, we already know how these things go.
Right.
We get to a place, we hear a spooky legend, we go there, we get some scares, but we piece it together, and it's actually a dude in a mask or a dude with a projector, and we catch him and we put him in jail, and that's it. And we've done this 100 times. We'll do it 10 more times in the movie just to show you how established we already know this shit is. And it makes the twist that, holy shit, it's not a mask, that much more effective.
Yeah, I really like, you brought up a really good point earlier on, talking about how well this movie was self-aware, and I think you really nail it right there with that point, that it knew going into it what they were dealing with. They had the material, and they laid it down.
I'll agree with all that. I think definitely using the montage to set up this scenario and kind of reestablish what Scooby-Doo and the brand is to newcomers and such. That's actually a really good call. And I just watched a film we're going to be doing later this season. I won't give the name here. That does something very similar in terms of just using visuals to set up the scenario. I cannot wait to talk about that more because I think it does a massive job of that. Moving on. So this is more of a fun question. I got a few funny questions in here. This one here. So Scooby-Doo theoretically would be the perfect customs dog, wouldn't he? I mean, like, the fact he smells food perfectly well and everything. I mean, come on. Train him properly and he'd be perfect.
You know, like he would be perfect, but I wouldn't want him to eat all the heroin that comes through customs. That would be bad for my dog. That would be bad.
No, you missed it. Like, they were hired, I think, because of their skill. Let's take it back. Let's take it back to a spin-off movie, Shaggy and Scoobs, right? They're down on their luck. They're obviously recovering drug addicts from the Mystery Machine, and they're down on their luck. TSA, is desperate for hiring help. We're post 9/11, and remember how lack the security was supposed to be, but when you really tested it, there's holes everywhere. Well, these were the examples. They were the strung out, burnout hippies from the 70s, and they were there specifically just to catch the food. And so I think it was this idiot savant sort of like, hey, you guys suck, but you're really good at sniffing food out. So as Scoob, that one a suitcase where he finds that big wheel of cheese, which I thought was really nice. He was going past all kinds of drugs and weapons and all that stuff. In fact, you know what? If we look at the timeline to this, they may have caused 9/11. I'm just saying that. We'll talk about that some other time. But let's watch the timelines. They're too busy sniffing for food and stuff. They let the bombers go right by, man. Never forget.
God. They missed the bomb.
They missed the bomb.
Hashtag Scooby caused 9/11. There you go.
All right, guys. Yeah, retweet that shit, please.
Please.
There's nowhere I can really go from that. That I'd have to move on. That's just too good. It's too good.
I have so many more, guys. I have so many more rabbit holes we could go down.
Oh, good lord. Okay. So the movie does do the movie reboots.
The love triangle between Daphne and that. I don't even want to get into that. Sorry.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of Daphne, so the movie does do some redesigns of sorts. So if you look at Friend Daphne, their outfits are redesigned a bit. And the Mystery Machine even gets a rehaul in the back seat with all the fancy techno-jargon internet devices back there. So, yeah, I guess my question is, what do you think of the redesigns? Do they look better? Do you think they work better? What do you think?
Bo, you're better off answering this first because you have more familiarity with the original design.
I'm glad that you said that, sir. Because let's talk about timelines again. The year, 97.
Oh my God.
It was released in 98, right? But we're at 97.
Sure.
This is before any ghost hunter shows or any sort of paranormal activity type shows. So the fact that they were coming out with this ghosts at this early on, they're pretty much the pioneers of handheld video reality shows. So all those guys should thank this TV show for that. As far as the modernizing go, I thought it was very slick, and it was a very easy way to be in touch with the crowd. I thought it was so Michael Bay late 90s movie trope of the van with the computer and the scannings of the internets. And I think what they did was take all that sleuth work and kind of just redesigned it into computer, because at the time they could have said anything to us as a crowd and we would have believed it. This is before everyone had cell phones and could Google everything. So from that point of view, at the time, it was kind of pretty cool that they were showing all this, because you always saw the Mystery Machine as a regular van. So they pulled it off really slick. And I thought, looking at it now and kind of seeing where the show came out before you saw these other influences, once again, I think Scooby-Doo, America should think that franchise. It's the same.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I want to add to that a little bit because I want to add to that a little bit actually because you brought up ghost hunters and shit, and I actually want to tie into that a little bit. So when we were on our recent trip for our family reunion, we caught some ghost adventures on the old hotel TV and everything. And after seeing this, it got me thinking. I would love, even if it's like a short, like little, like 3-episode miniseries of the Scooby-Doo game, doing some actual like ghost hunting with some humor involved. I think it'd be kind of fun to see them actually try using the real tech and shit to try to like suss out real ghosts and stuff. Because it'd be kind of fun. You know, get a little bit more of that tied into your stuff.
Well, we do get a small preview in the live action movies later on using that type of technology. So I kind of dig what you're saying. We can and then do a reunion Scooby-Doo show. They think they're filming the movie, right? Mm-hmm. But really, they're on their own real life ghost hunting expo, but they have no clue. So Freddie Prinze Jr. is playing Freddie. So it's kind of this like Tropic Thunder-esque sort of like aware of who they are, but not. I like where you're going with this.
Can we get that guy from the Ghost Adventure show, the guy with the black t-shirt's too tight for his chest, the Zach dude? Get him guest star him.
Weinstein's probably available for production, I bet. We can always call him and see where he's at on this. I think he's looking for a project to be his comeback. Maybe it will work.
I think he's out. I think he's out for good.
Oh my God, gentlemen.
Okay, so I have another question here. Let's talk about spicy food for a minute.
What?
Well, so in the movie, they down a bunch of those super hot peppers and they're, like, breathing fire and shit. So, first question I have, this is a two-parter here. First question, wouldn't Scooby have, like, the absolute worst shits of all time after eating those peppers? I've owned a dog, and they get the worst shits from less spicy food. This would kill my dog.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Out of all the rabbit holes I've gone down with this show and controversies and conspiracies and all this, I have never thought the shit level of Shaggy or Scoop at that level because damn, that's gotta be nasty. And then you think about all that time in the Mystery Machine.
Oh God.
Because in between cases, I mean, we're talking about states travel. Like they gotta be spending 14, 15 hours a day sometimes in a car. Whoa.
Fred, we gotta pull over, man. Scoop's gotta go. No, Shaggy, you gotta use the bucket.
We're not stopping again. Damn it, Scooby. You just see Fred, like, freaking out. One more time.
Then you got Daffy on the other side saying, like, well, they can't use the bucket. It's gonna smell in here. It's like, then why do we even have a bucket?
Why do we even have the bucket? Oh, that's funny.
But going from there. Second question: why do these two chuckle fucks drown themselves? In water when most food connoisseurs can tell you that if you drink something more like milk, it'll reduce the burn of spicy food. Like these guys,
because they're not smart.
These guys eat food all the time. They should know this.
Brian,
go ahead on that. I need to dwell on this one.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, that Shaggy and Scooby are not they're not the brains of this organization. They're really not. They're the meat shields. They're the guys that accidentally bumble their way through the traps and accidentally save everybody because of their incompetence, and we love them for it. And because they're the only people that are fucking crazy enough to continually go on these adventures despite being scared out of their fucking minds. Plus, milk, to counteract spicy food. I don't know how well was that known back in the early 90s. How well was that known? Do you guys know?
Hey, are you kidding me?
I'm not. I was 8. Oh. I don't know.
Well, the usage of cream and that type of stuff to curb heat has been used since the beginning of cream and spice. I've always thought it was always known that you never drink water because it was a thing for centuries. So I guess that's where I got that from.
I will trust.
And plus, they're fucking their palate's got to be destroyed at this point. So like I don't think
I can imagine that they're so high they're just imagining the flavor, but they're not actually tasting it.
Oh, maybe.
They just know what it should taste like, and their imaginations are taking over the rest of it.
Go back into Simpsons to the Homer episode where he ate the really hot pepper, and he went on a crazy acid trip. Maybe this is part of the hippiness that is our lovable duo. They're munching on hot stuff and just tripping balls.
Maybe they're gonna go see.
I've never had an acid trip based on peppers. I don't. I'm not that brave.
Well, whatever pepper Homer Simpson ate, I mean, maybe that will do it. But
I think it was
and I'm with
pepper
you,
that was made like a Guatemalan prison or something like that.
Yeah, it was something crazy. And he wasn't supposed to eat it. That was like the key thing too.
Yeah. And then he saw a spirit animal, which was pretty awesome.
A wolf.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash was the voice.
Indeed.
Bonus points.
Indeed. Okay, moving on. So I got a little goofy question here. Who makes Scooby snacks? And does Scooby get royalties for those?
I would honestly be surprised if they actually make Scooby snacks, because you'd have to pay royalties off the ass for that name.
So once again, we're going to talk about this. They say in the movie how stale they were, correct?
Yep.
So maybe in the highlight, maybe kind of like a Watchmen sort of thing, or back in the day, they're huge, they're popular, but then they, got busted for that crime and they break up and all that, so everyone lose interest. Maybe the brand Scooby snacks was just a dying brand that was never popular, like cereal, for example. Once you're out of the headlines and you're not popular anymore, they just move on and slap the next face back on a box. So I think we're looking at that kind of situation with the Scooby snack.
No, so I'm doing a Google search right now. Apparently, apparently, back in 2015, there was a synthetic drug called Scooby Snacks.
Oh, fuck.
That's right.
That people were, it was apparently synthetic weed back in 2015. And, Scooby Snacks Kush. Oh, no.
I don't... What's funny is there's a local pizza chain around here that actually has an appetizer called the Scooby Snack, and now I'm suspicious of it completely.
Oh,
yeah, that's probably code for drugs. You order that and you get like an 8th ball of Coke at your table. Like, what? I wanted a large pizza, man. What is this? I got a podcast I'm doing about the show, and I wanted to do a Scooby themed dinner. What are you doing? I didn't do drugs.
Okay, no. Here's what it is. Because now that weed's becoming legal in a lot of places, you make a batch of weed brownies and you sell them as Scooby Snacks.
Oh man.
Let's go, guys. Edibles, let's do it.
Do it.
Back in the day, there was a strand of ecstasy called Scooby Snacks.
Oh, Jesus.
My friend Joe told me that.
My friend.
He's from Canada. You guys wouldn't know him. I go visit in the summer. It's cool, guys. Don't worry about it. It's an old story. You know what I mean?
Jesus
this
Christ.
rabbit hole is going way deeper than I thought it would.
It's the Google search, man. It's the Google search.
All hail Google. Okay. Here's a question about the movie actually now. Okay. I'll steer back to that for a minute. So there's a moment in the movie where the ghost of Morgan Moonscar carves, the whole beware, get out on the wall and everything. I have a problem with this scene. So in the scene, Freddy is actually Freddy's recording the footage. During this recording, he cuts away to Daphne in a close-up shot and then pulls back away to show the full message. You can't live cut your footage while you're recording. So how the fuck does that work?
Hey, that's what kids think recording is. It's fine.
Great. Oh, I didn't pick up on that, and I really appreciate your eye for that, Aaron. That
live cut.
Well, damn it, Freddy, that loses all credibility in the TV show.
It doesn't matter because he the fucking camera anyway, which honestly hit me, like, that was the biggest thing that hit me in the movie. Like, not that there were real fucking zombies, but the fact that they finally found something real and lost the fucking camera. I couldn't believe it.
Did you think that was Jordan Peele used that for a little inspiration?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. There was something like the gardener before that Get Out scene. The gardener, as he looks over into the car, I swear to God, that is a straight scene from Get Out. And then they go in there and they're filming, and that happened. I looked over at Elisa, and she's like, "Do not say that in the podcast." And I'm like, "Dude, baby," but it's so obvious.
Well, I mean, the gardener obviously is really the grandfather of Morgan Moonscar. So I mean, come on, it's all obvious.
You mean the grandson? What?
No. They transplanted his brain into the gardener's body, obviously.
Oh no.
That's a little bit of a stretch, Aaron. Jeez. And did you notice his name is Bo also?
I saw that, yeah.
Just side note. And did you recognize Mark Hamill's voice? I didn't want to see who he was, because I figured he would be the rascal, the rascally scallion, or you meddling kids. I thought that would be him, and I had a hard time even picking up his voice, and actually had to IMDb it at the end. Couldn't pick it up, and it turned out to be.
Yeah, didn't realize it was Scruggs at first.
Steve-O Skaggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty slick.
You know what? I like it's possible that this even speaks to like a deeper level of meta than we've even seen, because the character Skaggs was ultimately a red herring to the story.
And he's a fisherman.
And Mark Hamill, for people who know who the fuck Mark Hamill is, and people who are familiar with voice actors, they're gonna spend their whole time like, where is he? Where is he? He's obviously like one of these characters that's gonna be the big villain. So Mark Hamill's involvement in and of itself is also a red herring.
I didn't consider that, and that's beautiful.
I appreciate our inspiration on you, Orion.
God, it's just like the meta levels on this movie, and it was 1998. I don't know what the fuck they were doing, but it was fantastic.
I don't know if this has anything of an influence, so let's rewind a little bit to 15-year-old Bo. So I'm super into I was a hipster before hipsters were around. So I was all about the independent movies, and you started seeing this kind of like the inspiration of the Al Brooks movies and the Mel Brooks movies. Mel Brooks and spoof movies. So you kind of start building this reference point, because now you're looking at a generation of people that can understand a callback joke or understand a reference humor. And so I think when this movie came out, they really, in movies that were kind of developing this theme, were referencing other things. So I think they just really carried this on. In fact, I'm just thinking about this. This is complete all of a sudden thought. But I'm interested to see who wrote this, and to see what other works they went on to maybe if there was this reference theme that continued on with some of their influence.
I'll look them up right now and find out. While we're doing that, if you guys want to keep vamping, I'm going to look them up.
Did you say vaping, bro? Come on, that's only losers do that.
So Glenn Leopold is one of the writers. What else did he write? Let's see here.
Can you imagine a 2019 version of Shaggy actually vaping?
I could, yeah. Let's see. So
talking about being vegan instead of vegetarian.
So going back to the beginning of this guy's career, he's done a lot of shit. He's been around since the fucking 70s. Okay, so he's done stuff with Yogi. He's done stuff called Dinky Dog, the new Fred Barney show. He did the Godzilla animated series in the 70s. Let's see, what else we got here?
Weird.
Super Friends.
Scooby Weird, the really crappy one.
Yeah. Snorks, The Jetsons, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I remember that one. That wasn't bad. Let's see, what else?
Snorks was awesome.
What's more recent? Let's see. He's done Pirates of Darkwater. I've heard that's really good. SWAT Cats, Fantastic Four, the animated series. I hear that's trash. I've heard from very reputable sources it's a trash show. Sabrina the animated series, Capertown Cops, Con the animated series, and most recently in 2013, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures.
Oh, whoa, that was so good.
Yeah, so great.
It was cute. That was a cute show.
Is this guy still alive? I actually have no idea.
Well, regardless, the meta context of this particular movie was kind of ahead of its time, so I appreciate what they were doing with that.
Oh yeah,
Here.
It's very. It goes back to what you're saying earlier about the self-awareness of this movie. Like, it was done pretty classic. Had a nice touch to it.
Well, speaking of meta, and speaking of doing some interesting genre stuff, let's talk about the zombies real quick. That's what this whole season's about, obviously. So, the zombies in this film are very different, and I want to give kudos to them on two levels, and I'll let you guys argue with me if you want in a minute. But so first off, they indicate the zombies are from different time periods. You can look at their designs and outfits and see they're going all the way back from pirate times to very recent modern time and everything. All their different outfits and costumes, tourist costumes, war costumes, a lot of stuff. And you can kind of tell that just visually alone that these cat monsters have been doing this for years. And then she goes and says it, through her little backstory. But, like, just the visual evidence of it right there is very well done. Like, you don't need to go any further than that. Like, oh, you guys have been doing this for fucking decades. Hundreds of years, even. And then, two...
a lot like that movie Get Out.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And then the other thing I want to point out, too, that I like a lot is that, narratively speaking, this is one of the few times zombies are the good guys in the thing. Like, they're trying to actively keep the heroes away from the island, get them away from the cat monsters so they don't become one of them. So it's really cool to see them do something different with that, especially for the first time in Scooby-Doo history where the monsters are quote-unquote real. So, like, it's really well done. I like that. I like all that.
Damn. The more we talk about this movie, the more I'm liking it. Holy shit. Aaron, that is such a great point. Like, I was going into this, like, zombie thing, I was thinking it was very, like, George A. Romano-esque. It had to be like an homage to like that, and that's where I was like really putting my focus, and I was completely sidetracked by that, and then didn't realize that these guys were not the anti-villain or the
antagonist,
superhero, but they were actually the actual good guys. Interesting point, my friend. That's very curious.
Yeah, and I love what you brought up about how they're being from different time periods, like signifying that this has been going on for centuries. But that's a really, really subtle point of storytelling, because anybody who's just looking at it from face value, they're going to see, oh, it's a bunch of zombies. Cool.
Yeah.
But anybody who's like paying more attention to it is just like, there's the guy from the Civil War, and there's the guy from the modern era, and there's the guy from this time period, and holy shit, how long have they been doing this? Oh, right. Dear God.
That was completely over my head. I
completely missed it until you brought that up. So yeah, that's another layer of like really cool storytelling that they're employing in this film. So yeah, it's really, really good for a straight to video cartoon.
It's not the level of quality you expect, but it's the quality you hope, and it worked really well.
It's real good.
Yeah, I'm curious about how like they used old school techniques with like new school techniques that were available at that time. So like how much were like, because if you say that Leopold guy wrote in the 70s, so he's kind of has this like mentality, and then it was directed by Japanese characters, so maybe they kind of brought this mesh of like their technology with like I was saying, the old school technique, so to speak, and just kind of brought that level up. Because you see in other examples, especially around this time era, where things were going from like animation to digital animation, and so like from one season to the next, like you saw The Simpsons, for example, become sort of flat and sort of like kind of a different color scheme.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think around this era that maybe they incorporated that, hence getting such better. Because lighting, for example, you brought up, the old episodes you watch, it was so dark, like, it's very hard to see sometimes. And we're talking about just regular, nightscapes or night scenes. Mm-hmm. Where this one, like, it was a lot brighter in the sense of, I wonder how much digital was starting to have, like, that effect during that era.
Well, we're talking 98 too, so this is around the time South Park was getting big, and they went from their cutouts to going full digital right after that.
Right. And then that was another example I was thinking.
Yep. And then
they went from that Go ahead, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. And then Ryan, you remember we did the Ghibli season. I think this is around the time that what's the movie called? The one with the wolves again, Princess Mononoke. This is around the time that was coming out, I think, and that was one of their first like pushes to digital animation as well. So digital animation was definitely hitting its stride around here because Pixar, I think, is also one of the big pioneers that did it in the early 90s, but now we're in the late 90s, early 2000s. This is when we're going to start seeing a lot more of that hit up, and here we are now in 2019. That's kind of the mainstay for every animator nowadays.
Great.
Definitely. We've talked about this in the past. I mean, I think Studio Ghibli leaned into the digital space while trying to preserve as much of like the original animation feel and trying to blend it into a seamless like mix between the two. Whereas Pixar just like, all right, if we're doing fucking 3D computer generated shit, then we're doing it, and we're just gonna make it as like cool as possible. So they kind of went the other way and did something completely different. But I definitely see like the craft of animating being advanced, and it's around this time period that you really see that happen like throughout all animation. Like everybody is determined to keep up and to change with the times. And you can definitely see echoes of that in this one as well, with the tightening up of the animation while also trying to remain true to the original kind of style of the animation. So it improves it without losing its soul. I think you can see that here.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good point. And The Simpsons, for example, like was hitting its stride. And then you see the success of South Park at this time. 95, it was construction paper and bad lighting and, that type of stuff. Where during this time, I think with South Park's popularity, you saw an increased value in animation. So I think maybe in some sort of weird sort of way, we're seeing this happen with the show.
Yep. And then I'm going to wrap up the final question because we're hitting near the hour mark here. Do you gentlemen want to see more Scooby-Doo movies on this podcast in the future? This is also for the audience out there. If anyone does want to see more of those, let us know.
For real, because I really wanted to do the live actions because I was all prepped for it, man. Just to get into those, I don't want to get into those. I'm not going to get because I don't want to use any material. I'm just saying, look out for Bo's spin-off podcast, Scooby-Doo. After all these guys do their thing, come hit me up and you can guest star. If you guys want to be on it, you guys got first dibs.
I've got pretty fresh memories of it. I could probably jump in.
Oh, it's good, man. I got kids, so a lot of these movies I have stayed in touch with, and both of them are surprisingly awfully good.
So I'm not the thing that I really enjoyed about this particular movie is how unlike the other Scooby-Doo episodes that I've seen it
Agreed.
Was, and how self-aware it was. I don't and of course, since I'm not as familiar or well-versed with the series, I couldn't say this for a fact, but I feel like this is an exception to the rule, as opposed to where a lot of the Scooby-Doo mysteries are all we go to this place, we hear this spooky legend, we go to the place, spooky shit happens, we use our smarts to piece together the mystery, and it was Old Man Winters, the guy from the bagel shop.
Right.
And that's the episode.
Well, you think about how many pop culture references that have came from the old series, you know what I mean, back in the day.
Definitely.
You see Wayne's World, for example, had a whole ending sequence to
the Scooby-Doo ending.
Right. Aaron, don't act like you watched that movie.
No, that movie's great. It's one of the best comedies I've ever watched. It's great.
Once again, I brought this up before, but Ryan, side note, when he worked in the kitchen, there is a trillion movies that everyone else has seen that Aaron has not. In fact, we would have whole shifts of people just spouting out movie titles and it was merely just so Aaron could say if he's seen it or not, and we'd all hang on a gasp waiting for him to say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that one." What? You've seen that movie, but you haven't seen this movie? And okay, I'll make a list. And he'd get castrated by his peers because of not watching certain movies. And so I'm very surprised that he's even seen Wayne's World, because most great comedies he has not seen.
Well, to be fair, a lot of you guys list like the Adam Sandler comedies. I just kind of like, nope, I'm not going to check out Adam Sandler. I've seen one. I don't want to see more.
Dude, I don't. Adam's. That's a whole nother.
So if you guys want to see an Adam Sandler series, please hit us up at the email address or leave a comment below just so we can tournament Aaron for a change.
Oh, God.
After you check out my spin-off series, check out Ryan's spin-off series, Adam Sandler Movies, and the Netflix deal that is.
We can torment him for a change.
Oh boy,
man.
Oh boy.
At least,
but going back to your question, I'm not super keen on like diving into like the whole of Scooby-Doo lore unless there are more movies like this that are kind of exceptions to the rule, where like you can take pretty much what everybody knows from having seen one episode of Scooby-Doo and kind of turn it on its head. If that's done in the live actions, then I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. But yeah,
live actions would be cool. To back up your point, watching the 97 version, I was curious like how many like movies, because I remember being a kid, like every so often there would be a week where they would show the movie, and it would be like a 5-day series. So waking up for school, you'd wake up, you watch Scooby-Doo at 7 o'clock, and it'd be like the first episode of a 5-part series, and that would be like the hour-long movies. And I remember these happening every so often, so it'd be kind of interesting to compare this one, which like what we've discussed for the last hour or so was pretty good. It'd be interesting to see where the first one, like how that came off. Like, was it as meta written? Was it as like adult written for adults as it was for kids? So very good point with that. I think we should do a little research before we bore our followers and listeners with that, because it might come off. But I'm after talking about this movie and enjoying it so much, I'm definitely curious about how like more of the history of Scooby-Doo cartoons play off.
I mean, there's a 32 film Scooby-Doo cinematic universe, so I'm not
that blows me away. When you said that blew me away. Like I thought there was like only like a few, but 32. And then if you think about it, it premiered back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's almost like a movie about every year.
Well, and these animated films, these direct-to-video films, didn't start until 97.
Damn.
So they got to be doing at least 2 a year on some occasions.
Curious, very curious.
Yeah. But, no, I'm interested in checking...
think about how long it took to animate back then.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to check some of them out. I'm not going to commit to doing 32 of them because we did a bunch of movies for Studio Ghibli, and that was the smartest play to do in terms of getting an audience. So if anyone is interested in specific Scooby-Doo animated films or even the live-action films, let us know, because I would love to see what the best of the Scooby-Doo films have to offer. I think we've hit a really high mark here, so it's going to be a really tough bar to pass, but I'm open to the idea.
And any listeners want to get really, really into it, you could catch my spin-off podcast on any porn parodies of the Scooby-Doo series, which I will have no problem doing in-depth research for. I may have the same evaluation for every movie towards the end and how it finishes. However, once you just DM me those messages, and I'll see what listeners want to go off on that.
I'm sure there's a parody called Scooby-Doo Me or something like that.
Oh, there's tons of... I'm sure there's tons of them.
And if you want to send us your Scooby-Doo porn parody names, be sure to hit us up at Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook. Also, we'll take suggestions for actual Scooby-Doo movies to watch, or if you want to talk to us about zombies and what you like to hear about them, hit us up there. And then if you could go to our email, Ryan, what is that email?
That is... Excuse me. Damn, sorry, got something caught in my throat. That's evacstation@gmail.com.
I almost understood part of that. I almost did.
If you guys want me on the show or off the show based on my content, just let them know, and I'll go off in obscurity and start my own podcast.
Well, I had some Scooby-Doo trivia in case this conversation didn't go very long, but since we're hitting the hour and 5 mark, let's just jump straight into the closing out for the ranking the film.
Man.
So like we did last year with the horror films, we just have a simple system. Bucket or fuck it. Does it get a bucket of blood, or do we just say fuck it to the movie? Gentlemen, what are your thoughts here? Pass or fail? What are we doing?
I personally really, really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was. Not only is the simple nature of the Scooby-Doo movie just like really childlike in its delight, but it also brings a level of self-awareness that I really, really, really appreciated as a 29-year-old. So I definitely put it in the bucket. It's definitely something that you can enjoy with your kids. Your kids can have fun watching shenanigans, and you can enjoy a spot of actually fairly deep meta storytelling. So yeah, put it in the bucket.
Surprisingly deep.
I would say, like, if I was to put this on, because my kids are at the age to watch it, I wouldn't have like picked up on the subtleties of this movie. I think I would have just like got lost in my phone and just been on Facebook the whole time and just made sure my kids didn't kill each other. So I definitely I appreciate this podcast in the sense of like, last night, why the fuck am I watching this movie when I have all this other stuff going on? But for the pure fact of that, I love this podcast. I love talking with you guys about movies. You know, I chammed through it, and I ended up totally enjoying it. I give it a... Wait, I get confused on this. Usually the things I like, I want to fuck. So it's the bucket, right? The bucket.
Yep, you put it in the bucket.
Yeah, the positive one. I say this is the positive check mark. However you look at it, this is the positive check mark on this pass or fail evaluation. Platinum. It's platinum.
Yep.
It's
so,
like
platinum bucket all the way. Well, Ryan, we made a comparison. We brought up the reference to, or at least I brought up the reference to Princess Mononoke. I'm going to say that this is the Princess Mononoke of Western animation here, and put it in the bucket.
Wow. Really?
I'm exaggerating, clearly.
Sir.
Clearly an exaggeration. But no, I really like it. And I'm glad it's not nostalgia completely. I'm glad that other people here are enjoying it as much as I am. So I know it's not just me. So yeah, definitely a bucket. Definitely worth a watch if you've not seen this in a while. And I'm sure most of you guys who are listening haven't. Give it a shot. It's probably the best, or it is my personal favorite Scooby-Doo thing I've ever seen. So yeah.
And if it is a movie that has been in your like rotating watch list, any of our listeners, and this was not a surprise when we did this movie, please stop following us because you're clearly a creep.
Yeah, so tune in next week. Let me see what the schedule is. I actually don't remember what I have the order up for this season at the moment. Let me bring up the...
Timelines mean nothing to us.
Well, I've shuffled it up a couple times because of the recording schedule. So let me just see what I have here. So after Scooby-Doo, which comes out on the 20th. So next week, you guys should be getting Planet Terror, which we're going to record here very shortly.
Oh, crap. We're doing that movie? Oh, no.
Oh,
what
no.
shall I do?
And then the week after that, you guys will get to listen to Zombieland. So we're going to have some fun stuff coming soon for you.
Oh, crap. Who's doing that one?
I don't
Guest
know.
star-wise.
I don't know. So thank you for tuning in.
One of my favorite movies. One of my favorites.
So thank you for tuning in, gentlemen, or listeners, and we'll be back very shortly for Planet Terror. Until then, we'll see you after the credits.
That's what she said.
Bye.
Peace.
I'm glad to